So you've navigated your way through you kind of like your youth development years. You sign a scholarship at Derby County, obviously go on to become a pro, and made your debut there as a your senior debut at Derby. Tell us what that part of your career was like. Becoming a pro and playing first team football.
Well, it was amazing. Obviously, when you sign at a club from the academy and you make it through that academy under, as it was at the time, under 17s, under 19s, reserves, first team, it feels like a huge achievement because it's something that you set out to do from 15, 16, leaving school. Okay, what is it I want to do in 5, 6, 7 years time? I want to play for Derby. I want to get into the first team. And having arrived at that moment, it's such a huge, sense of wow, achievement. This is amazing what I've done. And actually, I was probably guilty when I think back. Well, not probably. I was definitely guilty of feeling like I had arrived, and that this was all quite easy, and this was the way it was meant to go. Because you're told that if you do the right things and you work hard and you stay focused, you'll get into the first team. And then when that happens, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. That was easy. And it's a little bit like there's nothing really stopping me now, because if somebody tells me I can go and do this and then I've gone and done it, it's a little bit like, oh, great, what's next? So, I'll go and play for England, or I'll go and play for Man United, or what's next on the agenda. And actually, probably after playing 50 or 30, 40, 50 games, there was a little bit of complacency, I would say. And I've said it before in another interview somewhere, but there was a moment where I thought to myself that I was probably not untouchable in the position I was in, but that I was very, very comfortable. And as I say, this was all part of my journey. This wasn't something that I had to focus particularly hard on. This was just something that was bound to happen. But it actually came back around to bite me, and I found myself sitting on the bench after having played. I think I made nearly 100 or so appearances for Derby in my first stint. But there was a period where I was out of the team, and really I shouldn't have been, and I put that down to my own sort of complacency, really.
So that's quite it's quite a natural thing, really, for someone of that age, like between the age of 17 and 20, to be a little bit immature at times. What advice would you give someone, looking back, what advice would you give someone to deal with that situation better, or potentially avoid it? Because it's a complicated topic.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's difficult to know what to say to somebody else. What I would say to myself would probably be, where is it you really want to go? And have you got a plan to get there? Because I didn't really have any of that. And I didn't see the bigger picture. I just saw what was happening at that particular moment in time. And I was content to enjoy that moment and not think about what it meant that I was doing, what it meant to be 19 and playing in the Championship, which is, it's not rare, but it's a big achievement to be 19 years old and be being trusted to play in the Championship for a decent sized club that have really good sized crowds, and that's a really big achievement. And I think I really underestimated that. So it's not easy, as you say, because at that age it doesn't always dawn on you the importance, and actually sometimes the fact that it doesn't dawn on you can be a real benefit. And can be part of the reason why a coach may trust you anyway, because you are fearless, or you do have that arrogance or whatever it may be to go in and do that. So, but just to be a bit more aware of what it is I'm doing, where it is I want to go, perhaps have a bit more of a plan, and try and be as mature as possible in trying to achieve that plan. That'd be the only advice. I would probably give it a younger version of myself.
I think, like, listening to you there, even something as simple as like just writing down what you want the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year to look like, or 1, 3 and 5 years. And it sounds really simple and obvious, but if you're not clear with what you write down, as in your targets and your goals, how can you go about setting, how can you go about trying to achieve them? And I think for a goalkeeper or anyone at any level to commit to paper what they want to achieve would definitely help. It wouldn't hinder.
Absolutely. I mean, so it took me to the age of 24 to start doing that. I never wrote anything down, but what I did do is I used to make clear goals, really, really clear, and I'd verbalize them with my girlfriend or my wife, and I would say, this is what's going to happen. This is what I want for us. This is what I want for myself, for my career over the next year, 2 years. This is how I want it to look. This is what I think is achievable. And I would really set about trying to do that. And I've done that really throughout the rest of my career. But it took me to 24, I would say, to really have that maturity about my life and my career and look at it for what it is, which is, important. It's important to know what it is you want to do and where you want to go. That may be just kids and having a wife and things like that probably helped me to do that.
Yeah, but even still though, for people listening in, young goalkeepers, parents, current goalkeepers, to hear someone who's been as successful as you have, played as many games as you had, and still reflect back and think, I maybe should have done that differently is amazing. So no, thanks for sharing that. So you touched on you played a lot of games when you made your debut. You amassed around 100 games, and then you found yourself out the team for whatever reason. How did you deal with being number 2 at that time, and then if you could just touch on a couple of loans that you had as well?
Well, I found it really tough. I found it a real kick from the pride, and as I say, I feel like that moment from sort of riding the wave at 19 and 20 and being talked about in a certain light, and then finding yourself sat behind somebody else doing the same thing was really tough, and it made me realize what it is that I want to do, and it was just play games as much as possible and be the guy with the responsibility, and actually embrace that responsibility a little better, and from that moment on, I found that's probably the biggest turning point in my career in terms of that inner drive and that maturity that came from that moment. Because after that, I decided, well, if I'm not going to play here, then I need to be somewhere else playing. And I think I had a short loan at Burnley. They took me for a game because I think they had a sending off, and they were like, well, we need somebody quick for a week. And I went there. I said, I'll do it because I just want to go and play. And I went to Burnley and I played one game for them in the Championship at home. I think we drew 0-0 to Leicester. And I loved it. I was around all these really senior players, and I had a really strong physical team at the time, Burnley. I think it was Steve Cottrell at the time. They ended up asking if I wanted to stay for a bit longer, and I stayed for a couple of months, even though I wasn't playing because the goalkeeper suspension was over. But I loved it, and it gave me a taste. And I came back from there and decided I didn't want to be a number 2 at Derby County, and I'd rather go and play anywhere. And I got a phone call from Oldham. They'd asked if I'd like to come and play the last 15, 16 games for them. And I jumped at the opportunity, and I loved it. And that was 3 of the best months of my sort of early part of my career. I went there, I had 5 clean sheets in the first 6 games. I had a real thirst for it again, and it was a league down from where I was playing, and but that didn't matter in the slightest. It didn't matter in the slightest. It was, for me, all about playing games, being out there at the sort of sharp end of it. And by the end of that loan, my contract was running out, and they'd asked me if I'd like to sign a new one. And my first thought was, well, I'm probably not going to play. So, the best thing for me is to try and find somewhere else where I'm going to play consistently, because, as I say, I'd realised that playing every week was what was most important to me. I made my way off to Sheffield Wednesday.
Brilliant. So, wow, the importance of playing, and you said it being at the sharp end, looked to have paid off. And then you spent probably the next 10 years, amassing over 300 games, Sheffield Wednesday, Burnley, and Derby. So probably into kind of like the prime of your career, I guess, probably 26, roughly 26 at this stage. What were them kind of 10 years like?
Well, as I say, leaving Derby was a big thing in the sense that was my hometown club. Well, my hometown club in the sense I'd been there since I was 16, and where I'd come through at. So it was a big deal. But then to go to Sheffield Wednesday, and I had 3 years where I think I missed like 2 or 3 games in 3 years, and the manager trusted me. I had a great relationship with the fans and the club in general, and I just loved it. And yeah, they were 3 like incredible years. And you know, in football terms, really insignificant. You know, we didn't win anything, we didn't do anything outstanding. I think we stayed up just in the first year. No, actually, we did okay in our first year. Second year, we did steady, and then third year, we actually got relegated. So, you know, it's hard to. People say, well, how can you look back and be so happy with those 3 years at the football club? It wasn't 3 unbelievable years for the club, right? The crest of the wave and promotions. But for me personally, and for my career, they were such an important 3 years. They laid the foundation really for everything that came afterwards, because I showed that I could play consistently, play to a high level. I could obviously handle myself in a tough division. And I could excel in a poor team. That was another thing. So they were great. Led to me getting a move to Burnley. It was a good move for me in the sense that it was a slightly, you know, probably a tier upwards in terms of the bracket of football club. But probably, if I'm honest, didn't enjoy those 3 years as much as I did at Sheffield Wednesday for sort of various different reasons. It was further north than I'd ever lived as well. So all these sort of different factors. But again, 3 years of playing loads and loads of football, a really good, solid football club, and worked under some good managers. I've got this sort of nasty habit of seeing managers off as well. You know, I think I had 3 managers in 3 years at Burnley. I think I had the similar at Sheffield Wednesday the 3 years before that, and actually at Derby, I think it was probably even more in the 3 years that were after Burnley. So lots of experience with good managers and different ways of playing the game. But yeah, that sort of 10 years from 24 to 8, 9, 10 years into my early 30s, just lots and lots of football. And lots of loads of games.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to ask you to try and be, don't be humble here. I want to know some stuff about, what did managers and goalkeeping coaches see in you that enabled you to perform, towards all parts of the championship, staying in it, being at the top of it, and being in the middle of it. What were you bringing to a team, Granty, that was making them say, yeah, we want him in our team because of these 3 or 4 things? Come on, what were they?
That's a tough one. Okay, so I put my coaching hat on and try and look at myself. I think I've always been an athletic goalkeeper, so speed and athleticism has always been sort of one of my strengths. And as I say, the championship's a physical division. So that's important. I think that's an important characteristic to probably have, to be able to cope with the rigours. And as I said, early on into that Sheffield Wednesday period, I showed that I was able to cope with 50 games a season. He can do that, and his body can take it. So that's important. We've got somebody we can trust and rely on. And what else? What else did I show in those 3 years? Well, I think I probably showed, as I say, that I can cope with being in a team that's not necessarily performing well. So I was able to be player of the season a couple of times at Sheffield Wednesday in those 3 years, 2 or 3 times. And that's probably showed people that, this guy can keep goal. He can make a save under pressure, or in a team that's not necessarily performing that well. yeah, you put me on the spot now. It's not easy to talk about yourself in that way.
No,
But
sorry.
yeah, what else did I show? I think as well, one of the other factors that has helped me along the journey is probably my personality and the way I am. And I think if you asked managers that have played me, or managers that have left me on the bench, or managers that have got rid of me and didn't want me anywhere near their squad, they would all say that Lee Grant's a really hard worker and he's a really dedicated trainer, and he's a real low maintenance professional. And I've kind of always really prided myself on the fact that if I was a coach, I would know that I haven't got to worry. Excuse me, I haven't got to worry about Lee Grant. He's going to go about his business, and he's going to get on with the work. And if he's not playing well, then I can trust that Monday morning he's going to be back in on the training ground and trying to put right whatever's not going right for him. So I think that's probably one of my best qualities as a professional athlete, I think I would say.
Nice. So I think I heard three things there: robust and capable. So, great physical qualities, explosiveness, speed, and robust. I heard probably consistency and the ability to play in a good team and a bad team. That kind of like same level of performance and approach to the game. And then like mentality, it sounded just like being a good person on and off the pitch, coupled with hard work. So would that sum it up?
Absolutely. You managed to sum it up in about 20 words. It took me about 20 minutes to get there.
No, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard sometimes to like reflect and think about yourself like that. But that like three brilliant like pillars that I think could be useful to anyone listening, any goalkeepers.